Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. This is part 4, the final part of our 4-part series on earning money online with online freelancing, how I became a 6-figure earner in the freelancing space. And this video to me is by far the most important part of the series, because this is where I'm going to talk about not just the things that you need to do to get a job, but how you can start to make the big money in freelancing. Now, the first thing I want you guys to do, remember to like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. I appreciate it. You can also follow me on Instagram to keep the party going on my page. I promise I'm very fun. All right, so let's start. So what you want to consider if you want to make a lot of money freelancing online is that you have to consider yourself as a career builder. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean that with your clients, you're gonna have to get to the point where you are seeing these clients as a means to an end. If you have a client and you are working with them, and let's say, for example, I'm gonna use my highest paid category, which is project management. Let's say you're doing project management for this client. You want to make sure that while you're working for that client, you are getting as much as possible out of that client. So for example, I used to work with a client and I did Shopify for the first time with that client. I now can tell you Shopify like the back of my hand. That's now a skill that I've added to my portfolio. You always want to be growing your portfolio, because the bigger your portfolio is, the more skilled you are in things that are unique, the more money that you will make. So for example, I'm proficient in Zendesk. There are not a lot of people that can do a Zendesk setup from start to finish. There are not a lot of people that can migrate previous support systems into Zendesk, create macros, create reports, create views. There's not a lot of people that have that skill set, but people need that and they're willing to pay high amounts of money for that. So that's an example of a skill that I took from a client. So I never look at a client as, okay, this is just another job, I'm just gonna do what I'm told. I'm here to learn a skill that I can take and move into another business, that I can take and charge a higher amount to another client for. So that's tip number 1. Always look at each client as a stepping stone in terms of growing your skills. Now my second tip here is, you're going to be growing and you're going to be advancing your career with these clients. Now, I never do free work. That's not something that I ever do. Even if a client wants to interview me and they're going to give me, let's say it's a worksheet to do. The other day, I saw a client that we applied for a job for with my agency, came back and they wanted us to do something, and a part of it was to do a mock-up. It's not an app, something else. Close to something like an app. They wanted us to do a mock-up of it for them and gave us all the specifications and all of that, and I wrote them back and I let them know this is billable hours. So if you're not going to pay me to get this done, to do this worksheet, this part of the interview that's going to take a significant amount of time, it's not going to happen. And it's the same thing when I'm on the job. I make sure that my billable hours are clear. Make sure you understand what I'm doing in my billable hours, so that you never have to question why you're paying me. And so now if I raise my value, if you want to add more to my workload, you can understand that this is what she's been doing. She's always been maximizing her time. So now that she's asking for more money to do this other portion of work, it's no problem. If a client has to question whether or not you're working in the hours that you're working, they're just going to keep adding more things to your plate without thinking about it. So make sure that you're on top of communicating when you're working, making sure that you're on top of the things that you do, so that when new things come into play, you're easily billing for these new things that they're asking you to do. So always get paid for the work that you do. Now this is the third part, and this is the question that I get asked the most. What do you prefer? Do you prefer having multiple clients, or do you prefer having quality clients but less of them? And to be honest, as an independent freelancer, I'm going to talk from 2 perspectives. As an independent freelancer, I like to have my eggs in multiple baskets. So regardless of whether or not this is a quality client that I have, I like to have more than one job. It's just who I am. I just prefer it that way. Anything can happen. Businesses go under, just like in the real world, things happen. So you want to always make sure, especially if this is your main source of income, that you're protected. So regardless of it being a high paying job or a low paying job, you want to have more than one if this is what you're doing full time. Quality clients are always better because they pay out more over the long term versus short term clients that are paying you smaller amounts in the short term. So I do prefer to have quality clients and probably less of them, because once you're doing quality work for those clients, you're gonna have less time on your hands to spread around. But if you have a lot of these short-term contracts, let's say you're a graphic designer or something like that, would work for you because you would always have new clients, new work coming in, more things to add to your portfolio. But picture this, let's say you get a job with a quality client as a graphic designer at an ad agency, and this is now consistent work. You know the clients, you know what they like to, in terms of the work that you produce. You have a stable job that's always going to pay you, and it's long term. It's somewhere you can grow and build. You just have to decide which spectrum you prefer. Do you want to always be getting clients, or do you want a quality client? I prefer a quality client because, as I said, if you're looking to do it long term, this is how you build relationships, and this is how you advance your career with more people versus smaller clients that are usually paying less, and the less they pay, honestly, the harder they are to deal with. So these are the 3 main things that you want to keep in mind if you want to advance your career as a freelancer. You want to make sure that you are looking at each client as a stepping stone in your career. Always add new skills to your portfolio. You want to make sure that you are getting paid for every single second that you work for your clients. And you want to lean more towards quality clients and having a smaller quantity versus having a large client base with low paying jobs. All right, so now there are some questions that I got asked a lot during this process, and I wanted to answer them here so that there's a place that you can always find the answer, somewhere you can share it with your friends, somewhere you can always refer to in this video. Now, the first question that I got asked the most is how to get paid if you're an international worker. So, for example, if you're here in Jamaica, if you work, overseas, anywhere outside of the US, what's the best payment method to use? And I recommend Payoneer. Payoneer is better because if you are using Upwork to pay you directly to your bank account, and it's not even if it is a US bank account, if the bank is based in your country, they're going to pay you in your country's local currency, and you will not be getting the bank's exchange rate, you will be getting Upwork's exchange rate, which is crap. So crap, for want of a better word, that's what it is. So it's better to use Payoneer, so you get paid in US dollars and then you get a bank's conversion rate, if that makes sense. When you draw your local currency, Payoneer can be used at any major ATM, anywhere where Visa, Master and debit cards are accepted. You're good to go. The second question that I got a lot is around setting up your profile. I didn't do a video on this specifically because there's so much information out there. When you sign up for these platforms, they walk you through the steps of how to set up your profile. All you need to do is follow the steps. There's nothing that you can put on your profile, in my opinion, that will do anything spectacular for you. It's really in your applications. So focus on your application, set up your profile as much as possible, add as much flesh, add as much information, do everything that they ask you to do. Upwork now has this video section. Set up the video section. If you have a specialized profile that you need, set it up. If you're a graphic designer but you also do web development, set up the specialized profile. Do everything that you can on that end that your client can go and look at and verify your information. But there's a lot of information out there on how to set up your profile on these platforms. They're giving you the tips to set it up properly, so follow the tips that they give you there. And the third question that I got is around how long it took me to get my first freelancing job. And it didn't take me very long. I think it took me less than a month to get my first job online, and that was on the Freelance platform years ago. So getting your first job, it's always the most difficult because you have no profile history for the client to refer to. They're kind of just going off of what you say. But once you get that first one, it's a snowball effect. You're gonna get lots of clients. People are gonna start reaching out to you. It's like, you're in a relationship finally after years of being single, and now people finally trying to call you and talk to you. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Now that somebody has you, they want you on Upwork. So once you get that first one, you're good to go. Just focus on getting that first woman. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in. If you have any other questions, drop them in the comment box below. I will answer them down there. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have. And yeah, I think this is it. I think this is the video. All right, guys. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. And I will see you guys next week.